Good evening. This is Edward October, host of OctoberPod on YouTube. Jen and Cam have asked me to say a few words about our true crime podcast. There's nothing quite like discussing a juicy murder with a friend. True crime buffs are well versed in shootings, knifings, axings, poisonings, and violent defenestrations. But such matters are not for little ears. Listener discretion is advised.
Hello, it's me, Hayden, and I'm wishing all 7 of our listeners of our True Crime Podcast a very Merry Christmas.
Hey, Jen.
Hey, Cam.
How are ya?
I'm doing great. It's the last... you know what? I'm kind of sad.
Why are you sad, Jen?
It's the last day of Nightmare Before Christmas. It's the 12th episode.
It is the 12th episode, and if you're hearing this, that means we freaking pulled it off.
If you can believe it.
I can't believe it.
Unreal.
I cannot
it really
believe
is.
it.
By the seat of our pants and the skin of our teeth, we did it.
I mean, it wasn't as bad as I thought, but, you know.
It was fun. It was a lot of fun.
I kind of, and so did you, we kind of went in it a little bit more easygoing, a little bit. We let a couple mistakes fly.
Oh, yeah.
And that was kind of good.
And we didn't really go in deep as we normally do. There was a lot
That's what she said.
There's a lot of cutting and pasting going on and...
moving and shuffling.
Yep.
So,
yeah.
It
was fun. It was fun not to get too deep into these...
And I discovered some others that...
I did too.
So that was pretty good.
But it was nice not to get deep into these killers' minds right before Christmas, and we could kind of keep it light and not really have it affect the holiday so much.
Yes, correct.
So the last thing we want to do is get all dark and gloomy before we have to be nice to everybody.
No, that I save that for actual Christmas Day when relatives come over.
All right, so, Camille, you have the very, very last nightmare. You have the very last case that we are doing.
I do, and it's a doozy.
You have the 12 body count.
I do. 12-ish, maybe 13. We don't know.
Well, we don't know, but 12.
Definitely 12
confirmed.
But before we get in it, I thought we should just say thank you to all of our listeners out there, all of our Twitter friends, all of our pod friends. Thank you so much for listening. Thanks for sticking with it. And let me tell you, it's been a heck of a ride.
Thank you so much for helping us become this podcast.
And listening.
And listening to us.
And commenting. Could you imagine?
And actually, we think you like us. Thank you for liking us. We didn't know if there would be anybody that would.
They only like us because they haven't met us.
They'd like us more if they met us.
I don't know about that.
I don't know. I do.
But anyway, a great big thank you to all of them. I hope they have a wonderful holiday season and get to spend some quality time with people they love, which is important.
Very important. And we do love you, and we love that you stuck by us from the beginning.
And when we become rich, we won't forget you.
No, and hopefully one day we'll get our audio up to par.
That's never going to happen.
Probably not, but we mean well. Road to hell. Paved with good intentions. That's us. So anyway, just a big thank you. We do love you. We do.
I'm going to get all misty-eyed here.
But thank you so much. We really do appreciate it.
Yes, we do.
We're not like those other podcasts that just say that they appreciate you.
No, we really do.
We really
because
do.
we really know how bad we are and how bad we suck and how a 30-minute episode takes us 30 hours.
Mm-hmm. Who was it? Great Lakes on Twitter the other day said, I figured it out that it takes at least an hour per minute. I'm like, yeah,
When you have it almost done and your cat jumps on your computer, Jennifer, and deletes everything.
Mm-hmm. That you've already worked for.
Your computer crashes.
5
Jennifer.
Hours. Sorry.
I'm just saying. Hey, I've been there too. That Halloween episode I was in tears.
Mm-hmm.
That was pretty tough.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How hard can it be?
It's
Fatal
so easy.
last words.
Yeah. Anyway,
but we love it. And thank you guys.
We love you with all our hearts. Even though they're 2 sizes too small. Mm-hmm.
All right, Jennifer, you ready?
I'm so ready. Although I kind of don't want this to end, but it has to, like all good things. Must end.
Well, there's always next year.
There is next year. We're going to be doing it.
Let's start doing this like in July.
Maybe.
Right? Because this, Christmas is what, a week and a day away from now? A week and 2 days?
Yeah, and we still have one more. And stay tuned. January 9th, when we come back, we are hoping to have figured out what our Patreon. We're going to start a Patreon, and we're trying to figure out what we're going to offer for our Patreon. So if you guys are interested, maybe have some ideas, which we could do.
Ideas would be great, because we have no idea.
We want to do something a little bit different than everybody else does, because we are a little bit different than everybody else.
It's true. It's true.
There's no wrong answers. Throw anything out. Camille will even dance on the pole for you if you want.
Nobody wants to see that. So I'm going to take you back a little bit. During the 1930s, okay?
Oh, yeah.
Cleveland.
Cleveland rocks. Cleveland rocks.
I like Drew
Drew Carey? I do too.
Was a city on the rise. Millionaires Row was in its heyday. It was seeing all kinds of good things happening to it. The Great Lakes Exposition, as well as the Republican National Convention, were slated to be there in 1936. There were a lot of conferences, conventions. It was a good Midwest city with lots of things happening. Despite the effects of the Great Depression, people were starting to get back on their feet economically. Things were positive. Things were going in a positive direction, okay? It was 1934, and one of the most prolific and gruesome serial killers was operating in a neighborhood where an eventual 12, possibly a 13th, would become a victim of his depraved hunting just within a 4-year span.
Ooh.
Now, the area in which these murders occurred is known as Kingsbury Run. It's bordered on the north by Woodland Avenue and on the south by Broadway Avenue. Kingsbury Run was kind of a dark, dreary, dangerous place circa 1930s. It was pretty filthy, pretty trashy. It wasn't very desirable to live in, shall we say. A lot of people that lived in that area or hung out in that area were transients. A lot of them rode the rails to escape the good old Midwest winter when we used to have snow in the Midwest and we don't anymore ever.
You're just bitter because you're a teacher.
I digress. So the area just to the east of the run was known as the Roaring Third. This was home to, well, where Jennifer would like to hang out. Bars, brothels, flop houses, and gambling dens. So
I do hang out there.
I know you do. So
they're my favorite haunts.
It was in this area that the most notorious murder case in Cleveland's history would unfold.
Dun, dun, dun.
Join me as we discuss
In Search of the Cleveland Torso Murders.
Also known as the Mad Butcher of Kingsbury Run. But I like the Torso Murders better. Just me. You ready?
I am ready. I was born ready.
September 1934. A young man finds the lower half of a woman's torso. The thighs were still attached, but amputated at the knees.
What?
It washed up on the shores of Lake Erie, just east of Bretnall.
That is eerie. Could you imagine going out to look for shells or
and
whatever?
Of course you're going to think it's what? A mannequin. Like, because you don't run into body like that.
You pray it's a mannequin.
The Cuyahoga County Coroner, A.J. Pierce.
That's an Irish name.
Noted that there was some sort of chemical preservative on the skin, which had turned it red, tough, and leathery. The search yielded only a few other body parts. The body was that of a female in her mid-30s. Her head was never found. The woman was never identified. She is referred to, currently, today, she's referred to as the Lady of the Lake.
Pavel would have known who she was.
Now, it wasn't until 2 years later that this find would be included in the official killing total and thus became known as victim number 0. So it would be another year before the case began officially, and then it would be in another part of the city, the now infamous Kingsbury Run. So she wasn't located initially where all the other victims were, and I think the authorities went backwards to then include her, and they had already found victim number 1 that they were attributing to this killer, so she had to be number 0.
Gotcha.
Because she was killed first.
Right.
Still a little debate on if she even belongs to this, but let's see.
You would think
who chops
that-
up bodies? Come on now.
Well, as we've learned,
Yes,
a
we
lot of
have.
people do.
September 1935. As I stated, this was previously thought to be the first victim. Okay, so 2 teenage boys discovered the decapitated, emasculated corpse of a white male at the base of Jackass Hill, where East 49th Street dead ends into Kingsbury Run.
It's really called Jackass Hill?
Yes, I was surprised at that too.
Is it still called Jackass
Well, Jackass is like a mule.
Right, but you know how all these nanny...
This is 1935. Different time.
But still, you'd think that they'd probably change it by now.
The body, naked, except for a pair of socks, which I do love socks. I'm just going to say that right now.
Yeah,
was clean.
Those men in their socks.
I love socks.
I know,
socks make me happy. Socks and brand new hoodies. Those are my 2 favorite things in life.
I know.
Brand new socks, brand new hoodies.
But some men,
I don't want to talk about that.
I don't.
Nope.
Just
nope.
Keep their socks on. Bugs the heck out of me.
Maybe their toes get cold.
Get over it. It's not attractive.
So the body, strangely enough, was also clean and drained of blood. There were rope burns around both wrists. Coroner Pierce determined the cause of death had been decapitation. Fingerprints identified this victim as Edward Addressy, a 28-year-old white male. Addressy had an arrest record and was rumored to be homosexual or gay. We call it gay now, and frequented the Roaring Third. That's the area that was a little sketchy.
My hood.
Your hood. Police discovered a second body nearby, also decapitated and emasculated. It appeared to be covered with the same chemical preservative as the Lady of the Lake. This body apparently had been dead for at least a couple weeks. The 45-year-old white male was never identified. There's a lot of Jane and John Does in this case. January 1936. A woman discovers half the body of a female. It's neatly wrapped in newspaper and packed in 2 half-bushel baskets. What is wrong with people? The baskets were left alongside the Hart Manufacturing Building on Central Avenue near East 20th Street. Now, everything except for the head was recovered about 10 days later in a lot nearby. As in the case of Edward Addressy, the cause of death had been decapitation. For some reason, however, the killer had waited for rigor mortis to set in before disarticulating the rest of the body.
Wonder if it made it easier?
Rigor mortis? Well, I guess because you get stiff and then you get not stiff, right?
Right.
I don't know. Fingerprints, again, would allow the identification of one Florence Palelo, a waitress, barmaid, and sex worker. It says prostitute, but I'm changing it to sex worker. At the time of her death...
She had a busy schedule.
She sure did. At the time of her death, she resided at East 32nd Street and Carnegie, right on the edge of the Roaring Third. So obviously this killer had to be very comfortable with that area. You couldn't be, say, a very clean-cut attorney hanging out down there.
You could. I mean, for gambling...
Yeah, but I don't know.
Gambling and prostitution and all that kind of stuff. I bet you could go down there and you could dress the part.
You could.
I am the part.
I know. June 1936. Early one morning in Kingsbury Run, 2 young boys discovered the head of a white male wrapped in a pair of trousers. East 55th Street Bridge. I cannot imagine the shock of that. Finding that. Police found the body of the 20-some-year-old man the next day dumped in front of the Nickel Plate Railroad Police Building. Clean and drained of blood, again, the corpse was intact except for the head. Pierce again determined the death had been caused by decapitation. In spite of a fresh set of fingerprints and the presence of 6 distinct tattoos on various parts of the body, police were never able to identify the victim. I suppose back then you had newspapers, no TV, so it was hard for people to get the word out if your loved one was missing and had, say, 6 tattoos.
Yeah, I would definitely think it. Well, remember in Dale Nelson case?
Yeah.
They didn't even know of his escapades within 70 miles.
I wonder if people were happier then because you didn't get all the score and bad news all the time.
And you didn't have ugly trolls on the internet being mean to you.
Truth.
Probably, but a different set of worries, I'm sure.
A plaster reproduction of the man's head, along with a diagram of the kind and location of his tattoos, were made to display at the Great Lakes Exposition in 1936. They were hoping, obviously, to find out who this guy was. More than 100,000 people saw the, quote, death mask and tattoo chart.
Still no one found him.
The tattooed man was never identified. The original death mask, along with 3 others from the case, are still on display at the Cleveland Police Museum.
Wow.
How cool would that be to go there? We should do that. Cleveland's not that far away.
It's not.
July 1936. A teenage girl comes across the decapitated remains of a 40-year-old white male while walking through the woods near Clinton Road and Big Creek on the west side. The victim had been dead about 2 months, and his head, as well as a pile of bloody clothing, were found nearby. Judging from the enormous quantity of blood that had seeped onto the ground, this man had apparently been killed where his body was found.
Ew.
So that makes me wonder if
somebody came across him while doing it, and he got spooked and left.
Something, yeah. And yes.
It'd almost have to be, because it
or maybe
seems like all the other...
Or maybe a copycat killer.
Could be.
September 1936. A transient trips over... Could you imagine this? Oh my God. Terrible. Transient trips over the upper half of a man's torso while trying to hop a train at East 37th Street in Kingsbury Run. Police searched a nearby pool, which was nothing more than a big open sewer grate, I guess, and found the lower half of the torso and parts of both legs. Police sent a diver in to make the recovery. Talk about a job you wouldn't want.
Yeah, but you need, unfortunately.
The number of onlookers that turned out to watch the grim spectacle was estimated at around over 600.
Wow.
And scarily enough, the killer could have been in there.
I'm sure he was.
I bet you he was too. Victim number 6 was in his late 20s, and the cause of death, yet again, was decapitation.
How did they know that for sure?
Especially back then. I don't know.
Like, how do they know? I mean...
Well, someone with the blood drain, they were probably hung upside down, much like a deer or something.
Right, but they could have been strangled or suffocated first.
I don't know.
And then, because I would think it'd be hard to put a body upside down while they're fighting you and then decapitate them.
Or maybe he knocked them out first.
Could be.
The head's gone in most of these cases.
That little hammer amnesia thing.
Yep.
Or he could have shot him in the head. If the head's
we don't
gone.
know. But, yeah. Coroner Pierce noted that the lack of hesitation marks in the disarticulation of the body indicated a strong, confident killer, very familiar with human anatomy. Doctor? The head had been cut off with one bold, clean stroke. The victim died instantly. Identification was, again, never made. 6 brutal killings in 1 year, and the police had nothing to go on, nor any suspects. The Cleveland Press, the Cleveland News, and the Cleveland Plain Dealer all reported almost daily on the killings and the lack of a suspect. These poor people, they probably lived to get that paper and see what was going on, right?
I would think so. Well, if 600 people showed up at a crime scene, I would think that everybody's wanting to know what's going on. I would want answers.
So here we get to hear a famous...
That would almost make me stay home from going out at the gambling casinos.
And the brothels.
And hooking. Make my money a quarter at a time.
I don't judge, though. To each their own. You do you, boo-boo. It's here that we're going to hear a famous name. This is kind of cool. So the pressure is, coming up, coming heavily from...
Coming down.
Coming around. Whichever. There was lots of pressure going on.
In all directions.
Correct. Mayor Harold Burton recently appointed a safety director, and he wanted the safety director to get involved in this case. The safety director's name?
Ed Ness?
Elliot Ness.
Him too? His brother?
Yeah.
Ed Ness's brother?
Yeah. Did you know that? Did you know Elliot Ness was involved in this?
No, I thought it was Ed.
Oh, okay. Coroner Pierce calls for what the newspapers dub a torso clinic.
Dubba.
It's a meeting of police, the coroner, and other experts to discuss information or, create, I guess, a profile of what they believe the killer would be. which we would do today, but they didn't have that yet. So the police department put detectives Peter Marillo and Martin Zalowski on the case full time. They would go and kind of get into that seedy underworld and infiltrate it, I guess. Mm-hmm. They often dress the part, so they would dress as like a transient or a homeless person, somebody down on their luck. So by the time the case had run its course, they had actually interviewed more than 1,500 people.
Wow.
That's amazing in that little spot, right?
That's a lot of work.
This would be the biggest police investigation in Cleveland history.
Even today, huh?
The November elections return Harold Burton as mayor, but Coroner Pierce is replaced by the young Democrat and now legendary Sam Gerber. Do you know who Sam Gerber is? Gerber's fierce dedication to
baby food
to medicine, along with his degree in law, put him at the front of the investigation.
I would think so.
Hopefully we're getting somewhere. We're not.
Why not?
February 1937, a man finds the upper half of a woman's torso washed up on the shore east of Bretnall. Unlike the previous victims, the cause of death had not been decapitation. This had happened after she was already dead. That would be interesting to see how they know this, because I have no idea. I guess I should look that up. We'll cut that out. The lower half of the torso washed ashore 3 months later near about East 30th Street. The woman was in her mid-20s, and she, again, was never identified.
Could they tell that the lower half of the body had been in the water longer, or was it like a freshly deposited?
It didn't say.
Because that'd be interesting to know if they did.
The body. Well, I mean, obviously, they would know 3 months in the water versus not 3 months in the water.
Right,
they would
but
know.
I just wondered if that was mentioned anywhere. Because I don't know if they kept the one part and then released it on every Wednesday.
I wonder if they put them in freezers.
Drop a body pot. I don't know.
To save them. Maybe we should do this as a bigger case.
Yeah,
it's been done a couple times, but not by too many podcasters.
That's fine.
I Google stuff like that because I don't need to know. June 1937, a teenage boy discovers a human skull under the Lorraine Carnegie Bridge. Next to it was a burlap bag containing the skeletal remains of what turned out to be a petite black woman around 40 years old.
Oh.
Dental work allowed for the unofficial identification of one Rose Wallace of Scoville Avenue. Police followed every lead that they had on her.
Is this the black woman that was found, the skeletal remains?
Correct.
That doesn't fit the MO.
They followed every lead they had on her, but leads led nowhere. July 1937. So there were labor problems going on in the flats that summer, and the National Guard had been called in to maintain and restore justice. A young guardsman standing watch by the West 3rd Street Bridge saw the first piece of victim number 9 in the wake of a passing tugboat. Over the next few days, police recovered the entire body, except for the head, from the waters of the Cuyahoga River. The abdomen had been gutted, the heart ripped out. Now, obviously, this is a change in what the killer had been doing. The victim was mid to late 30s, and again, never identified. See, it just makes me wonder if, similar to...
They had to be transients, obviously.
Yeah, but if there's a copycat, like say you're thirsting, you're yearning, that's for Glenn, because that's his new word. If you're yearning to be a killer and somebody is doing this, you would slide right in there and just be a copycat killer, especially in the 30s, because they didn't have the technology we have. You know what I mean? Just thinking. I don't know yet. Is it a copycat? We don't know. Stay tuned. April 1938. A young laborer on his way to work in the flats saw what he at first thought was a dead fish. Not a mannequin. That's good. Along the banks of the Cuyahoga River. Closer inspection revealed it to be the lower half of a woman's leg. The first piece of victim number 10. A month later, police pulled 2 burlap bags out of the river containing both parts of the torso and most of the rest of both legs. For the first time, Coroner Gerber detected drugs in the system. Now, this is where... Thank you. This is where we ask, maybe drugs were used to possibly immobilize the victim, or was the victim a drug addict? Had they never been able to find drugs? I don't know. Guess what?
What? Chicken butt?
So police were hoping maybe that if they could find the arms, it would help determine if maybe she was a drug addict.
Right.
Right? But they never...
was big in the 30s? Opium?
morphine. Anyway, they never found the arms. And guess what? Never identified. Crazy. I guess that's why the killer kept the head. To not identify them?
Maybe.
Maybe he had a little hobby collection? I don't know. All right, August 16th, 1938.
I mean, I collect heads, but nothing like that.
3 scrap collectors foraging in a dump site at East 9th and Lakeside found the torso of a woman wrapped in a man's double-breasted blue blazer, and then wrapped again in an old quilt. So see, thinking about this, and then also thinking about the burlap sacks, today's world, they would be able to pick off fibers of that and indicate way more than they ever could then, right?
Oh, they could get the lot number of the burlap sack, where it was found, what the fibers, yeah.
The legs and the arms were discovered in a recently constructed makeshift box. It was wrapped in brown butcher paper and held together with some rubber bands. Again, like that would all go back. Today's technology, you could see where that paper was manufactured and where it came from. And
prints. There'd be prints all over it.
The head had also been wrapped. Gerber noted that some of the parts looked as if they had been refrigerated.
There you go.
While searching for more pieces, the police discovered the remains of yet a second body only yards away. The 2 bodies had been placed in the location, and it was in plain view from, dun dun dun, Elliot Ness's office window.
I wonder if the guy's a butcher.
Or a doctor.
But
Wasn't there words that Jack the Ripper was maybe a doctor?
Right.
I'm wondering if that's
but with anatomy and to know how to
but a doctor would know that too.
Take the joints and everything out. They would know that.
So both victims 11 and 12 never identified.
That's so sad.
I wonder what he's doing with all these people. Weirdo.
Or what he did to all these people, because we don't know.
August 18th, 1938.
Because back then, do you think that they might have thought this would have been sexually motivated?
Oh, yeah, I'm sure. But, like, the bodies had been out there for so long and so differently.
I wonder if they were all prostitutes?
Well, there was boys, too. Men. Well, yeah, sure. You're right. August 18th, 1938, at about 12:40 a.m., Elliot Ness and a group of around 35 police officers.
What happened to his brother Ed? Did he not show up that day?
Ed quit.
Oh, damn it.
You know, you always have one brother that goes the good way, one that goes the bad.
Quits everything.
You know,
thank God Elliot is around.
Quitter.
Disappointing.
So the police officers, along with detectives, raid the hobo jungles, their wording, not mine, of down there by the run. 11 squad cars, 2 police vans, and 3 fire trucks descend on the makeshift shacks where the Cuyahoga River twists behind Public Square.
We have to remember that this was during the Depression, so there was a bunch of transient villages and
Ness's. Yeah, that sounds funny. Ness's raiders worked their way south through the run, eventually gathering up 63 men. At dawn, police and the firemen searched for clues. Then, on orders from Safety Director Ness, the shacks were set on fire and burned to the ground.
They did that a lot.
I know, that's terrible.
That is terrible.
Why? Doesn't that have their belongings? You only have
I know. Well, it's the same like the ICE agents kick over those water supplies.
Terrible.
I know.
So the press, obviously, thank goodness, severely criticized Ness for all this, and the public was getting very frustrated. Now, the critics said, and I guess...
Well, those villages were very unsightly, and people didn't like...
sanitary, too, I'm sure.
Exactly. They just didn't want those people there anymore. But that's not the way to go about it.
No.
It was the Depression. People lost everything.
I know, and that's why I said, their only belongings they had in that little thing. And
their
then
entire life, and then the police burned it to the ground.
So
horrible.
Obviously, the press severely criticized Ness for all of this, and the public was frustrated. Now, the critics said that they were going to do whatever they could and would stop at nothing to help solve these murders. So that was them sticking up for their actions, right? Even though we all know that was not right. July 1939, Sheriff Martin O'Donnell arrested 52-year-old Bohemian bricklayer Frank Dolezal for the murder of Florence Polillo. He had lived with her for a while, and upon investigation revealed that he had been acquainted also with Edward Andrassy, and Rose Wallace. Those are 3 victims, right?
Right.
However, his confession turned out to be a blend of just ramblings, and even though he had some details, it was almost as if he'd been coached. It was fake, right? So,
no bread vaginas.
Stop it. So before he could go to jail, he was found dead in a cell. The 5'8" man had hanged himself from a hook only 5 feet 7 inches off the ground.
That could happen.
Aaron Hernandez.
Kate Spade.
Gerber's autopsy revealed 6 broken ribs, all of which had been obtained while in custody. To this day, no one thinks that Frank was actually the torso killer.
That doesn't sound like it.
So the question is then, why would they think that he did it? I guess they just needed somebody. Exactly. The Kingsbury Run murders remain one of the most perplexing cases in all of criminal history. So there's all kinds of rumors about who could have been the killer. But the one thing is very clear, and that's Elliot Ness had a suspect who he believes was, in fact, the killer.
Was it Edna? Is that why he quit?
This suspect continued to haunt Ness for years, even after the killings had stopped.
Al Capone?
All official police records on this case have been...
disappeared.
Shocker, right? Lost, destroyed, or removed. Why is that always the case?
Because somebody knows something and hires someone to destroy evidence.
Oh, yes, it's creepy.
Well, you got the money. You can do it, or the power.
Let's put this all together. Always beheaded and often dismembered his victims. He occasionally severed the victim's torso in half or severed their appendages, arms and legs, and what have you. In many cases, the cause of death was decapitation. Most of the male victims were castrated, and some victims showed evidence of that chemical treatment that was applied to their bodies.
Right.
That I can't figure out. That's odd.
And it made it leather-like? I wonder if it was
red
some kind of
and leather-like.
tanning.
That's kind of what I was thinking, like a
leather hide.
Many of the victims were found after a considerable period of time following their death, occasionally even in as much as a year later. So obviously, Jen, there's so much more to this case, not that we could cover in our 12th night. It would, this could
We'll
go
have to delve in it further sometime.
Yes. So real quick, though, let's take a look at some of the suspects or what they believed. So we already talked about Frank Doziel, who was 52 and arrested as a suspect of Flo's murder, but he died under, quote, suspicious circumstance. He hung himself right in the jail.
Right, and he was coached.
Right. Now, in 1997, another theory came up.
In 1997?
1997.
Okay.
There's a lot of information out there. I mean, a lot. This is bare bones. Yeah, bare bones.
Quick and dirty like you are.
That's right, buddy.
Cheap, free, and easy.
That's you. I'm
not cheap.
Okay. 1997, another theory had come about that perhaps there was no one single butcher of Kingsbury Run because the murders were, some of them were vastly different, and they believed maybe they were committed by different people, like the copycat thing, which I think that'd be the way to go. Now, this was based on the assumption that some of the autopsy results were, in fact, inconclusive. I didn't mention this, but the county coroner, Pierce, had been a little bit inconsistent in his analysis as to some of the wounds on the bodies, some of the cuts on the bodies, if they were expert, if they were not expert. I mean, who really can determine that?
Well, you would think that if there's hesitation marks or non-hesitation marks would be expert, I would believe, correct?
I guess, but sort of like if the head's been being taken off in one full swoop, I mean, that's not a steak knife. That's something, like, you kind of know what you're doing.
Well, it can't be easy to do.
No.
You would have to have some kind of instrument that's extremely sharp.
Right.
And know exactly where to hit.
So finally, we're going to leave you with this. Most investigators consider that the last murder took place in 1938, and a suspect was a man by the name of Dr. Francis E. Sweeney. Now, Sweeney was a veteran of the World War I. He was part of the medical unit that conducted amputations in the field. Sweeney was later personally interviewed by Elliot Ness in regards to the killings. During the interrogation, Sweeney is said to have failed to pass 2 very early polygraph machine tests. Now, I don't know if I believe that because, back then, whatever. Both the tests were administered by a polygraph expert who told Ness that he had his man, that he was, in fact, the one that did all this. Ness apparently felt that there was little chance of obtaining a successful prosecution of the doctor, especially as he was the first cousin of one of Ness's political opponents.
That would make everything easy to disappear.
Congressman Martin L. Sweeney, who had bothered Ness publicly about his failure to catch the killer, was his opponent. After Sweeney committed himself, there were no more leads or connections that police could assign to him as a possible suspect. From his hospital confinement, threatening postcards with Sweeney's name mocked and harassed Ness and his family way into the 1950s.
Wait, so Sweeney was put himself into a mental institution.
Correct.
And then sent Elliot Ness
Threatening postcards.
Oh, yeah.
With his name on it.
It's him.
And he harassed Ness and his family way into the 1950s. Now, Sweeney died in a veterans hospital in Dayton, Ohio in 1964.
Yeah, I would think he was I think he's a good suspect. That would make his political cousin or whoever it was, he would be able to destroy all the evidence.
Just recently there is, and I don't have it, I guess I'll put it in the show notes, but there was an author that wrote a book and he details how Sweeney was the one that did this, and he wholeheartedly believes that Sweeney was the one that did this, and he has obviously a whole book written on it.
Right.
With lots of details.
Well, I would think going back to our Blood on the Bayou.
Blood on the Bayou, our true crime podcast episode. Check it out.
I would feel that this killer, whoever it was, went to the transients, offered them work, money, something like that, to get them to come with him wherever it was.
I agree.
To do that job. So, and
he could have been doing some medical testing on them, hence why he kept their head. Maybe he kept that for exams and dissecting the body.
Right.
Castrating
because it wasn't
them.
that long ago then people actually dug up bodies to research.
Frankenstein. Yep.
Well, not just Frankenstein, but Ben Franklin did that.
I just put that out there.
Yeah.
Frankenstein's not real.
They found bodies in Ben Franklin's basement when they excavated it.
But see, here's an interesting thought that I'll leave you with. So if you're a medical doctor and you have these bodies in your basement, it's for research purposes.
Right.
But if you're just Cam and Jen, and you find bodies in the basement, then all of a sudden you're a killer. You're a bad person. Just saying. Just the name.
That's true.
I know. Thanks. I try.
Very strange.
All right, Jen, that's it.
It's still illegal no matter what.
I'm saying.
But a rose by any other name.
It's still a rose.
Still
unless it's rotting.
Sweet.
A Rose for Emily by William Faulkner. When she takes her beau, her sweetie, who wanted to leave her, and she just kills him and keeps him in her bed. Like a pressed flower.
Yeah.
Check it out.
That seems reasonable.
One of my favorite short stories.
I don't like Faulkner.
Oh my God, you got to read this. It's so good. It's so good. I read it to the kids, and they're like, "Oh my God, it's so good." It is good."
Yeah.
He was a pressed flower. She was a Southern belle. Yep.
Yeah.
But then there's all the necrophilia that's kind of alluded to, that she slept with them.
Happens.
So Jen, that wraps up our 12th Nightmare Before Christmas. I can't believe we did it.
I can't believe we did it either, but I'm pretty proud of ourselves.
I really am.
Like I said, we did it.
Two slackers like us, we pulled it off.
We did it by the skin of our teeth and the seat of our pants.
We really did. Also, I think here would be a good time to just say thank you to some of the podcast people that have really kind of been in our corner that we've, I guess, become close to. What do you want to say?
We have a team of podcasts that have supported us through everything, that's tried to help us,
and
that have helped
we
us,
need lots of help.
Have helped us. Just some amazing people that we are very proud to call our friends. And if you're not listening to their podcasts, you need to be, because they're pretty awesome.
Here.
So the first one, we would like to say a huge thank you to Kate from Ignorance Was Bliss. She is honestly the hardest working person in podcast land. I swear that woman puts out a a new episode every other day, if not every day.
Deeply researched. Nothing
Deeply
that you can
researched. She's amazing.
do.
And if you listen to her, you would know.
She really is. Lots of good information.
And she's funny. She's very witty. She's easy to talk to. Honestly, Kate, we love you. Thank you so much. And I know I've been jokingly calling you Katie, but...
Katie's cute, too.
Katie's cute, too. But we love you. Thank you. The next one, we want to thank Lainey from the True Crime Fan Club.
Thank you, Lainey.
And It's Haunted. She's amazing. She helped us from the very beginning, whether she wanted to or not. I pretty much attacked her with questions, but she was always delightful and answered my questions quickly and never withheld information. Some people don't like to give away their secrets. Not Lainey. She was very open and she taught us the ropes. So thank you, Lainey.
She encouraged us often when we were about to throw in the towel.
Right.
She helped a little bit with trying to say that it's okay and it's fine. It is a learning curve, that's for sure. So thank you, Lainey.
There's also Justin.
Hi, Justin.
From Mysterious Circumstances, and Rev96.
He has 2 podcasts. Check them out. Very different.
One is Creepypasta, and one is Mysteries, not only up-to-date murder, true crime, but he also delves into the historical stuff. Like, he did a great Wild West series.
Yes, he did. It was very good. So thank you, Justin.
He also took time to help us with audio.
Or tried to.
If you guys are seeing the theme here, it's audio.
We have audio problems. Big time.
But he's always been helpful, and hopefully, as with Kate, we will be doing a collaboration with him.
Thank you, Justin.
In the coming year. There's also Gerald and Natalie from Conspired Podcast. That is a conspiracy theory / true crime podcast.
It's very good, and different kind of stories. So if you prefer one over the other, they kind of have a variety. So it's
they go in depth when they do true crime, or from what I've seen, when they do the true crime, it's usually 2-3 parters.
Yeah, deep,
really good,
deep research, not like us.
Deep dive. They're great. Gerald kind of took us under his wing and kind of helped us get our name out there a little bit. So we can't.
Thank you, Gerald.
Or
Jerry.
With your kitty pickles. We can't thank you guys enough. We can't thank you guys enough. You guys are.
Thank you.
And then, of course, we have Glenn from Glenn Thinks Stuff.
Hi, Glenn.
Hi, Glenn. If you aren't listening to him, your day is not complete.
You can't listen to him and not laugh.
He did a mini episode not too long ago that I really needed to hear. I was kind of having a bad day, and it was this big motivational, you can do it type kick in the ass that I needed. And I really appreciate Glenn. He's a great guy. He's funny. He's smart. He's helped us a lot He's just an all-around good guy. He is a good guy.
He's my favorite, but he knows that.
Yeah.
He's my podcast soulmate.
He's your huckleberry.
He's my huckleberry. Heart you, Glenn. Thank you for everything. And finally, last but far from least,
you've heard us say his name more than once on this 12 Nightmares Before Christmas, but a huge thank you to Edward October and all the folks at OctoberPod VHS on YouTube.
If you're not watching him, he's so talented. Actually, he's beyond talented. He's got a great voice. He should have been a voice actor. And, the things that...
He could have been a real actor, but we don't know what he looks like.
Yeah, we have no idea.
He could have a face for radio.
He could be famous. Could be Brad Pitt. We don't even know.
It could be Brad. What if it is Brad Pitt?
Oh, then I really love that.
I love you, Brad Pitt. Edward October.
Anyway, just a great big thank you to him. He has been so good to us with promoting us, making things for us. And you know what?
Without even asking, and he puts out this quality material for us, and we are blown away from it.
Well, the shocking part is I always know it's going to be good, and he one-ups it. And then I'm like, I am stuck with my mouth on the ground because it's so amazing.
We expect it to be good, but it's always better.
It's way better. So thank you so much.
We love you too, Edward October.
Yes, we do.
And
so on that note, not that we're going to get all sentimental and cry and get a little misty.
We love all of you. We love all our listeners too. You guys have made it all worth doing, and I know this is so out of character for us to be all
mushy
and our own little squad on Twitter.
We do.
That we love. So all the big shout outs to the ladies. Terrence, if you're listening, we haven't heard from you. Drop us a line. We want to make sure everything's okay.
Over there across the pond. wrapping it all up, thank you guys so much from the bottom of my lovely heart and Jennifer's cold, dead heart. We wish you all the best in 2019. Hopefully we will still be cranking them out. And maybe we'll finally figure out how audio works. I doubt it.
We probably won't.
Anyway, here's wishing you all the very, very best of 2019. And to end this, we have a very, very special goodbye. Make sure you check out the bloopers at the very end. But for right now,
Edward October has put together for us a very special ending for our 12 Nightmares Before Christmas. We are so thrilled that he did this. It was a total surprise. And honestly, I think it's probably one of the best Christmas presents we've ever gotten.
If you could see our faces when we listened to it, because we were recording the last episode, we listened to it, both of us had smiles ear to ear. Unbelievable. Sometimes we meet people we like and we force them to be our friend, and Jen forced Edward to be our friend, and so thank you so much for that. Very appreciated. And
just amazing.
Thank you.
Just amazing. So thank everyone. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year.
And remember, lock your doors.
And keep passing by those open windows.
Bye-bye.
Love ya. See you January 9th.
2019.
Stalkers creeping through an open door, steak knives stained with human blood, fiber evidence destroyed by a fire, and shallow graves exhumed when there's a flood. Everybody knows manslaughter and homicide help to fill the days with fright. Android phones with their screens all aglow will stream our true crime pod tonight. Jen and Camille on the case. They're solving murders with a smile on their face. And every true crime buff is gonna try to see which suspect really deserves to be fried. And so I'm offering this simple phrase, one I've said a time or two. If you enjoy our true crime podcast, you'll also like October Pod on YouTube.
You gotta warn me when you tell me stuff like that. You can't just hit me like that. Terrible.
Yeah, but I like the element of surprise.
Oh, that was... yeah.
That was probably disturbed.
It's funny. Oh, come on. That was good stuff. Damn. Okay. It'd be another year because
you were half a body?
No, because they're all like that. They're all chopped.
But why patient? Oh, like patient zero?
Yeah, because she was first.
Gotcha.
Right? But they didn't know that.
I think there'd be one.
No, because the other one was one, and then they went back and.
Okay, I got you. Cut it out.
Let's see the right.
Bruce Arthur killed all the gay men. Bruce Arthur in Canada.
I don't know what you're talking about. Okay. For some reason, the killer had waited for rigor mortis to set in before articulating the rest of the body. What the hell does that mean?
Just cutting off the arms and legs and all the joints.
Do I need to say that again? Ew. Police found the body of 20-some-year-old. Police had found... Soon on the next day, the police had found the body of a man, which...
That's that cocaine's getting to it.
It's laughing.
Dubba.
Did I say dubba?
Dubba wubba. Bubba.
Hubba dubba wubba. Remember that? I never could do that on Zoom.
Never either. Come on,
The police department put detectives...
That's pegging for later. Let's go.
Hold on.
Come on, Zuma, 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 Zuma.
I'm gonna focus here. Focus me. Focus.
Come on, give it a try.
So the police department put detectives Peter Merlo and Martin Zalewski. The police department put detectives Peter Merlo and Martin Zalewski. I feel like you.
Zelensky.
It's Zalewski. Zalewski. Let me write that down. Zalewski.
Arthur.
That was the one I edited there. I'm just going with that. I'm just going with Arthur.
I couldn't find it. It is Arthur. But legend.
Did I say legendary? That's right. Did I say it right? Oh.
No, it's from How I Met Your Mother.
Oh, sorry.
Is he the maker of the Ruma's Gerber sandwich?
The head had been similarly. The head had been similarly. The head had been similarly.
Also had.
He had lived. You.